Okay, guys, just a video to share some interesting aspects of psychoanalysis. All right. I'm going to call it How to See Sounds and Hear the Stock Market Sonata. I am presenting it in a Jupyter notebook using Python. So let's jump straight into it. First thing I do is I import a couple of useful libraries. And then next thing I'm going to do is create an audio signal. These are my inputs for the audio signal. This is the signal itself, this function here. I'm going to run it. And then over here, I am going to plot it so you can see what an audio signal looks like in graphical format. It's a bit confusing, right? So why don't we zoom in on the first 100 points, where you just see a very simple sinusoidal wave. If I plot on the same scale the final 100 points on this, see, once again, it's a sinusoidal wave, but with a higher frequency and some other funky stuff going on. That's all coming from this function, right? In addition to visualizing it, we can actually play the audio signal. Here goes. I'll play that once more. Wait. Right, so what we have there is starting at a fairly low frequency. I actually made it to be equivalent to C2 and ending it at middle C. What are those? Well, those are video piano. Here's middle C. It's actually C right in the middle. I made it start from there and go in a quadratic function all the way up to that frequency. Okay, now let's actually plot the spectrogram of that audio signal. And here goes. Boom. All right, essentially a heat map showing you where most of the energy is in that signal. It starts at a fairly low frequency down here, C2, and goes up in a quadratic function all the way up to middle C. Does that make sense, Anna?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. We can actually make it a little bit more interesting than that. Check this out. First, I need to. Oh, by the way, guys, so I'll post the notebook with the code so you can play around with it. So import some more libraries. I downloaded an MP3 file of one of Beethoven's masterpieces. Boom. And you can actually see the signal from the audio in the same fashion as we looked at that very simple one up there. See, it's a lot more complex. Um, I'll get rid of that for now. Actually, just hide it. And what I'll do is play a little snippet of it because, it's about 8 to 9 minutes long. Here we go. Chills down the spine, huh? Right? So, check it out. I'm going to plot the spectrogram for exactly that same interval, that same little snippet there. Boom. Right? This looks a lot more, well, certainly richer than this very simple audio signal, right? You can actually see all the frequencies that are getting excited as the piano is played in the sonata and when the keystrokes are actually happening. So actually, let's play it again and try to follow this little snippet. I'll try to show you where we are on the spectrogram. Right? You can see sound. I'll actually include another video from YouTube which shows the entire movement um, in a similar fashion. So Guess what? A little fun fact here. Um, this is how Shazam works on your phone. All right. Shazam creates a spectrogram of whatever the input, the audio input is into your phone, and then compares it to a library of known songs or a library of the spectrograms of known songs. And then it gives you an output. Very simple, right? That's literally the concept. Let's do one more thing with Beethoven here. All right. This shows you two ways to look at music. Sheet music, spectrogram, right? And it's exactly the same thing. And actually, we can show two sections. We'll zoom in on this blue box and also the red. The blue, what you see is a sequence of chords being played. And you can see that, or maybe you can see that, in terms of how uniform the excitement of keystrokes is, or frequencies is, right? You can even see the rhythm. For those of you who studied music, right? You can see here our shortest notes. This is actually the longest, the longest played in there. And you see it at the beginning there. Da, 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 da. Check this sequence out here. This beautiful sort of cascading down through all the notes. Almost like a scale. Check that out here. Can you see that, Anna?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right. Exactly. Right. If we actually zoom into these frequencies, we can assign the keys to the actual frequencies themselves. And here's that sequence again. We're going down, all the way down the notes, right? Anyway, now you're obviously wondering what the heck this has got to do with hearing stock market sonata. Okay, so I'm going to show you something quite interesting here. I've downloaded the Dow Jones Industrials average weekly data from inception, that's the late 1800s. I've detrended the time series, and now I can treat it as an audio signal. Once I've treated it as an audio signal, in my program, I create a spectrogram. This is the equivalent of exactly what we've been looking at here. Obviously, not as rich. And just a side note, the y-axis here has been inverted because here we're looking at period rather than the frequency. And one is the inverse of the other. So high period, long time period, these are the low frequencies. And the high frequencies, right, short period over here. And you can see in the hotspots, the notes, frequencies, or what I call cycles, or cycle periods, that have been the hottest and when they were the hottest. So, for example, I can tell you that this guy here, well, you see this hot region that hovers between 3 and 4, which actually has the highest peak on the power spectrum density, that is the kitchen cycle. Right. So in the notebook, I've labeled some of the interesting cycles for you in there. Kitchen, Ugler, real estate cycle. And in fact, if you head over to Wikipedia and you search for business cycles, right? I've shared this before, they've actually got a pretty good note here. And they go through some of the classic economic cycles. Kitchen, Ugler, Kuznets, right? Which I call real estate because it's to do with infrastructural investment. It's the construction and real estate cycle and the extremely long K-wave, right? Those are our cycles in there. So check this out. If I go back to my cycle program, I can select, if I click on, okay, that didn't work very well. Here we go. Click on that peak of the kitchen cycle. Boom. You can see it's somewhere between 41 42 months. Okay, that hot stuff. If I then go to my chart, it creates that sinusoidal wave. So just think of a sine wave based on that period. And you can see how the low regions correspond with some of the sharpest declines in the stock market. This is in fact how, when I published that note, when was it? Mid-July, yeah, sometime in July 2001. I think that's around here. And I was forecasting a bear market in 2002. Well, you see how one of the inputs that gave me that conclusion. That sine wave was telling me, expecting a lot of downward pressure for the market in 2002. But it also helped me give the timing for when that bear market would end. So in October of last year, when I sent out a note saying you got to get out of your shorts, we're going back to bull market, going back to the highs. That was this upturn and swing in the kitchen cycle. By the way, it's not just the stock market where we can play around with this concept. This here is the spectrogram for US CPI, so Consumer Price Index, or the change in the Consumer Price Index, right? Inflation. And look at this insane hot zone and very consistent throughout the data, around 5.5 years. There's a very fundamental cycle in economic time series, right? And I am going to highlight it, right? Or somewhere around 5.5 years. We go to the chart and remember how recently inflation was going through the roof. There was a lot of pain, cost of living this, cost of living that, and that, mortgage rate rises, etc. And yet I was very confident that inflation was coming down. That is, what I shared with you guys. And that is because this cycle, this frequency, this note from the inflation data was telling me inflation is going to come down. That is the cycle. That is the note frequency that is most prominent and most consistent in the inflation data. Let's hop back over to our notebook. If I now define, let's say, the kitchen cycle, that period, and I say assign middle C to it, right? That is the frequency in hertz for middle C. Okay? This is what you hear. That is middle C. I mean, it's horrible. So I'm going to use this guy over here. That's middle C. We're going to make that as our anchor for the kitchen cycle. What does that mean the other guys sound like? The Ugler cycle, given its range, the exact closest note we can come up with is G2. So that's in the next octave lower, and it's a G. All right, if I play it here, where is it? It's here. G2. Right, so we had kitchen, Ugler. Got it? Remember this, Anna? From your violin days. Here we go. The real estate cycle, guess what? It's going to be a pretty low G. It's going to be this guy down here. Hear him? There we go. So there we go. Kitchen. Ugler. And then real estate cycle. That defines, well, if we were in the same octave, right? C and G, that's a perfect fifth. A perfect fifth. Three of the most powerful cycles, three of the most useful, I certainly use for trading and investing, right? Oh, my perfect fifth. Of course, there was one more cycle, the K wave. It's super long. So actually, this, we don't even have a key for it on the piano. The frequency is so low. It's extremely low. Because we're talking about a period that's about 54, 55 years long. It's a very, very important cycle. There's some cycles that are longer that are also important. But if you think about that, right? This one, given the a typical person's investing lifespan, then it's only people like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger who will see a complete K-wave cycle. right? So, anyways, if you're wondering how or want to think more about how we can forecast the economy or the stock market using this concept, I'm just going to show a quick video here. Look at this. This is what happens when we pluck some guitar strings. Right? Because after all, that's what it is. Sounds, frequencies, vibrations. Those waves are a simple mathematical function. You know where the string will be at some point in time, given its frequency. Look at that. So having these frequencies, these waves, these cycles, we can make conditional forecasts where to expect the economy, the stock market to be in the future. And that is what I do in my service, right? I use different algorithms, different softwares to extract these cycles, test them, optimize them, and make forecasts based on this concept. All right. So hope you enjoy this video, guys. I'm going to share this notebook somehow on the site. And if you want to play around with it, let me know. You'll need to first, some of these libraries, you'll need to install them before you pull them in. And of course, you'll need to find a good MP3 file of some music. You don't have to use, Beethoven. You use whatever your favorite music is, and you can actually start viewing it the way Shazam would. All right. Happy New Year, guys.